We're 3 races into the NASCAR 2025 season. Only 2 winners to chat about at this point. Hi, everybody. I'm Doug Rice, joined by Alexis Erickson and Kyle Petty, all 3 of us in the PRN studios here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And Alexis, I think I can speak pretty much for everyone that the Circuit of the Americas did not disappoint this past weekend.
It certainly didn't. And, we didn't really know what to expect either going into the weekend because of the fact that we are running the shorter course for the first time in the history of NASCAR going to Circuit of the Americas. But we were talking before the show started, and it really brought the excitement, I think, a lot more passing zones. It also brought the fans that were there closer to the action. They didn't have to wait so long, for the cars to go around to be able to see what was happening on the race course. So I think all in all, it was a fantastic weekend.
Kyle, I know you were in Austin this weekend. That place has got a certain magic to it.
It really does. And, and they're turning it into a theme park a little bit. They're building a roller coaster and building some other stuff. The fan zone, because of the shorter track, was more compact, so it looked just packed. Where all the souvenir rigs were, where all the displays were, the people up on the banks watching and everything. It does. It has a little bit of a magic, and I agree. Compressing the racetrack and making the short racetrack a little bit shorter, it just seemed to be, from the time they dropped the green flag, there was a sense of urgency. Something was going to happen. Something, before it was, let's watch them go into turn 1, and then in 4 or 5 minutes, they'll be back around again so we can watch it. It was that kind of thing, but it was like you didn't have time to do anything. They were coming by.
I thought they made a good call by shortening that up, but they gave the fans a bigger experience by getting to see the cars more. At the end of the day, Christopher Bell passes Kyle Busch and holds off William Byron. Alexis, are we at all surprised that Christopher Bell has won 2 of the first 3 races?
No, I'm not, and I'm frankly not surprised that he was a player at COTA. If you remember, I think last year, first and second were just reversed, where William Byron held off Christopher Bell to win. So it is becoming very clear that Christopher Bell is a player. He's a player week in and week out. Obviously, we've only had super speedways and a road course, but I think you're going to see Christopher Bell be one of the guys to beat every single week in and week out for sure.
So I'm going to say this because in this chair last week, I said Christopher Bell was going to have to figure out how to finish segment 3. Remember?
Right.
He was great in segment 1, great in segment 2, couldn't close in segment 3. Okay. The 2 races that he's won this year, he's been non-existent in segment 1, non-existent in segment 2, and won the race by closing in segment 3. You know what I mean? So maybe the tides have turned for Christopher Bell. And you ask if you're surprised that we're Christopher Bell. I was surprised at Atlanta. The Atlanta win was a surprise for me. I will say that because I didn't think that he was a car to beat there. Yet on a road course, he has inserted himself in the road course driver conversation because he's there week in and week out.
11th career win for C. Bell. Let's hear from him in victory lane.
I didn't really have to make a move. Kyle slipped up. I forget where it was, if it was in 20 or in the stadium section there. But, I got into second on that restart, and there was like 10 or something laps to go, and that's a long time around this racetrack. So, obviously, I wanted to try and make a move as quick as I could, but I knew that their time was going to be on my side. I was a little bit better than him before the yellow there. But as soon as I got out front, they went to crap, and I was sliding around all over the place and tried to give it away. Made it exciting for the fans, that's for sure.
So what kind of numbers are we going to be talking about, Alexis? We'll start with you for wins for C. Bell when we get to the end of the year.
That's a really great question. Obviously it's easy right now to say that because he has 2 of the first 3 wins that the sky is the limit for him. The only thing that I think about when I think about that, though, is like you don't want to peak too soon, right? We see that all the time. We see drivers they come in hot. We could go back years and say, oh, well, this was the driver that we were looking at the first, second quarter of the year. And then when it got to the playoffs, they were nowhere to be found. So my biggest question is like, sustainability. Will he be able to sustain this kind of momentum throughout the year? And I think he can. I think he has matured in this role, in this team that he's been with now for 4 or 5 years. And this is a year it really feels like Christopher Bell can have that sustained momentum throughout the season.
Yeah, and you bring up a couple of interesting points. If we're sitting here last year at about this same time, we're having the same conversation about William Byron. Okay? He wins Daytona. He goes to COTA. He wins COTA. He's won 2 out of the first 3. just like we're looking here at Bell. And we're talking about that sustainability, and they didn't sustain. You know, they were hanging on, even though they made it to Phoenix. They were hanging on by the time we got to the playoffs. And I think if we go back to JGR and we go back to the Toyotas, they didn't win a race in the second half of the year, it seemed like last year. They just fell off the face of the earth. So what about the manufacturer? I mean, there are so many variables in this sport that either put you in winner's circle or put you in second or third place. And it's not all C. Bell. You know, it's not all Adam Stevens. You've got it's the game and it's the tools they have. So it's going to be interesting to see how the year plays out as we move forward.
So Christopher Bell picked up his win yesterday, his second on the season. The Daytona 500 winner, William Byron, came home in second.
I mean, I definitely gave it my best shot. You know, I was still kind of a little bit of contact here and there, but yeah, I didn't want to just blatantly knock him out of the way. You know, I felt like he had a good car all day and they had worked their way forward, and you know, we did as well, but we were just a little bit off and just needed a tick more. So yeah, I think overall it was a good day, and we'll just move on from there.
All right, we're going to talk more about Kyle Busch here in a little bit, but Kyle Petty, I felt very confident in the closing laps that we weren't going to see Rock'em Sock'em robots at the end of this. These guys that were racing up there don't race that way.
No, this was the I think this is what made yesterday's race really pretty cool. Were those last 10 or 11 laps. And you look at those last 10 or 11 laps, and there were multiple times that Christopher Bell could have just shoved Kyle Busch out of the way. There were multiple times William Byron could have just shoved, Christopher Bell out of the way and gone on up there and challenged. And then towards the end, let's throw Tyler Reddick into the mix. So you got 3 or 4 cars. They drove each other so clean. We saw Christopher Bell get into turn 1 and just abandon the corner and turn dead right. He comes from the inside back across the back bumper of Kyle Busch to keep from running over Kyle Busch and almost loses second place. So I think what we saw yesterday was not the typical race wins or ends that we see to some of the short tracks and some of the road courses. But when you look at that group of drivers, I think there was a tremendous amount of respect that they had with each other. And I think it shows how good a road course racers that there are in Cup racing at this point in time.
You know, I thought it was interesting, too, after the race to hear William Byron say, well, I watched Christopher race Kyle Busch, and they raced so cleanly that I thought, well, maybe I should race that way, too. So, that was him being able to see Christopher Bell and Kyle race the way they did, and swapping the lead, and then him having the opportunity to do that to Christopher Bell. He thought, well, if Christopher's not going to do that to Kyle, I'm not going to do that to Christopher. So it's kind of funny how it's like a snowball effect almost,
It was nice to see at the end of the race.
Yes, for
because
sure.
I did not want to see cars pirouetting, kicking up dirt at the end, and that's how it ended.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that just sends the wrong message about the sport.
Yeah, it does. And it sends the message about the sport that we saw the confrontations last week at Atlanta, because these young guys believe that's the way it's got to be done. That it's got to be, you got to just run over people. When you show them a race where you don't have to run over people and it looks like a work of art, when you get back and you step back, it's like, oh, so that's the way you're supposed to race.
Well, it ended that way, but it didn't necessarily start out that way.
No, Chastain created a melee up at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. The same guy that was talking to host of
Yeah.
our race.
Right.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I love this
Interesting.
sport.
I love Chastain to death, but I'm thinking, Ross, it's the first lap, bro.
Yeah.
Let this thing cook a little bit.
A little bit.
Give
Just a
it,
little
give it
bit.
some time before you shove all of that in there. Here is our Toyota performance report. Christopher Bell wins in the DeWalt Toyota. Coming home in third was Tyler Reddick. Chase Briscoe rallied for 14th. Riley Herbst was 17th, coming home 20th. After starting on the front row was Bubba Wallace. He got a penalty early on, never really recovered from that. Denny Hamlin, he got chewed up on the first lap. He finished 21st. John Hunter Nemechek's run of top 10 finishes ends at 2. He was 22nd. Then it was Eric Jones and Ty Gibbs coming home in 34th. Ty Gibbs picking up right where he left off last year. Not too good. That is our Toyota Performance Report, brought to you by Toyota. For the latest Toyota Gazoo racing information, visit TGRNA.com. We come back, we'll chat about Kyle Busch.
From fueling NASCAR champions on the track for over 20 years to innovating 94 Octane, the highest octane on the market. Performance is what Sunoco does. All Sunoco fuel at the pump meets the same top-tier standards as the fuel used in NASCAR. From the track to your tank, you can trust Sunoco to help your vehicle perform at its peak.
We work hard to keep our cars looking great on the outside, but engine components need our attention too. That's where you can trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant to disperse carbon buildup in your engine and fuel system to keep your car or truck running at its peak. By soaking into the metal of your engine, Z-Max Micro Lubricant improves performance, extends engine life, and reduces emissions. Trust the many customers who've said, "Thanks for saving my engine." Find out more at zmax.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm Ty Dillon, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
I'm PRN's Doug Turnbull, co-host of the 5 to Go podcast, a weekly deep dive into 5 motorsports issues. Devin Kupka gives the Gen Z view.
One thing that I've never seen before, when the cars got 4 wide, everybody stood up cheering.
And championship-winning mechanic Dan Elliott leans on his decades in the garage and promoting.
Unless everybody is aware of the rules, then no, it's not fair for everyone.
Listen to the 5 to Go podcast on GoPRN.com and subscribe on Apple and Spotify.
Denny Hamlin slides up. He gets into the fence a little bit off of turn 3. We will see if he is able to sustain that.
So suddenly things change dramatically. It was the 2 youngsters for JGR. Now it's the veterans that are occupying the top 2 spots in turn 3.
Hamlin out front for the 11th time today.
Debbie Hamlin gives up the lead.
Side by side going into one. Truex down low. Hamlin up high.
3 wide in front of him. On the bottom is Chastain. Up top is Austin Dillon with Gilliland in the middle.
It's Bristol, baby!
Welcome back to Fast Talk. Doug Rice, Kyle Petty, Alexis Erickson. Let's talk a little bit about Kyle Busch and the fact that he led a boatload of laps and was in the mix all day long. Kyle Busch led 42 laps at the Circuit of the Americas, wound up finishing 5th. Here's what he had to say at the end.
I just wish that, maybe we had equal tires to the 20. I don't know if that was all the difference. I know he was really fast. He had a good race car, but I feel like that might have been able to help hold me on a little bit better to him. But even that last yellow that we had, I felt like the gap that I had to the field, I was far enough out front. I could run the lines and clean lines, the lines that I wanted, to preserve the tires and take care of him as much as I could to see if he would get there. But once we had that yellow, then it was just defensive mode. And you're in complete and utter just beat the heck out of the tires at that point, and I just didn't have it over the 20 there. So hate it that the contact we made between 2 and 3 ruined our race car too. Just it bent the right rear toe link and knocked everything out of it. So I just didn't have anything there at the end to compete with those guys.
So that's Kyle Busch. Came home in 5th. Still a nice run after leading the most laps of any driver at Circuit of the Americas. And Alexis, as soon as I walked in the studio today, David Stiles says, I was pulling for Kyle. I am amazed at the transformation of people now that say that. My wife yesterday, I wanted Kyle Busch to win. He has made the transformation.
You tweeted it not that long ago too. Where was that? Was that last week when you tweeted
it?
It
was I think in the Xfinity race at Atlanta.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep, exactly. Where he actually did go to victory lane. But you're right. I mean, and we've talked about this before. I find it so fascinating because you can go back in the history of our sport and pick out guys that this has happened to. I mean, you look at the hatred for Jeff Gordon from so many, and then he got towards the latter part of his career, and it was like everybody wanted to pull for him. Same with Jimmy Johnson, and of course you could go way back, even further than that. But we're looking at that with Kyle Busch too, and I don't even know if I would say he's necessarily at the end of his career like those guys were the last 2 or 3 years when they really started to get that fan support. I think he's got a lot more years to go. I think obviously going to RCR, the connection there with Dale Earnhardt, all of these things you know, and the fact that he's not winning as much. You know what I mean? It was when people were rooting against him, it was because any given week he was going to victory lane and people were tired of seeing it. Now people are kind of like, oh man, I feel bad for the guy a little bit, you know? So there's that empathy there for him that I think helps to change that tide a little bit.
Yeah, and you know, you listen to that interview, and what I take away from that interview was he broke down the last part of the race. He broke down why this happened, why that happened. He's a lot more thoughtful in his comments in this position. Before, he was just PO'd because he expected to win when he got there. He knew he could win when he got there. He wanted to win when he got there. There were so many things that brought that attitude. Now it's tough to carry that attitude when you've got a shot to win maybe 6 races out of 36, not 36 races like he had before. And I'm sorry, that's just a fact. And all the RCR fans can hate on me all they want to, but they just don't bring the car week in and week out. He had a car, and he stood there and he waxed poetically about why it didn't happen. And when you look at it, that's exactly why it didn't happen. It had nothing to do with Kyle Busch. He drove the wheels off of it. But he understands now why that didn't happen. And that's a different Kyle Busch, and I like this guy.
All right, with Kyle Busch being where he is at Richard Childress Racing, they're not Penske. They're not Hendrick.
Yep.
They're not Gibbs. They're whatever the level just below that is, or a little bit below.
Which is that much.
Yeah.
Which is a
smidge.
16th of an inch. Yeah. Which is a 16th of an inch. It's nothing.
So realistically, what can he do this year? Where is he going to be in 3-4 months from now? Is he going to get a win or two, or is this just stay in points contention?
So let's go back to when he went there. Okay, so is this his 3rd year? This is 3rd or 4th year.
Yeah, because last year he didn't win. The first year he won 3 races.
Early.
Yeah.
Early. Let's say he looked like a rocket leaving a launch pad when he went over there. He took off. He won 2 or 3 races, boom, boom, boom. And then since that time, this thing's nosed over. It's leveled out.
Yesterday was 60 races he's gone without a win.
So the thing is, if you look at it, I don't see here's what happens. And I'm sorry to say this. Once the season starts, okay? Once the season starts and you have to race. So the development and all that stuff, it's a different pace. Everything's different. Don't get me wrong. But you're running along. It's tough to get a lot better. And if you start the season behind, you've got to make huge gains to get ahead. And you've got to make incremental gains to catch up. And in the past, we've not seen that out of this organization. We've seen it from the Hendrick organization. They've started behind and caught up. We've seen it from the Penske organization. They've started behind and caught up. But we've not been able to see it from an RCR. We've not been able to see it from a Trackhouse. We've not been able to see it from the next level of organization. So as the year goes on, you almost get farther behind because those other teams do pick it up a little bit. So I would like to think that Kyle and what we've seen so far in these first 2 or 3 races could come out and win a race. I don't look for him to win 3 races. I don't look for him to win 6 races. I don't look for the Kyle Busch of old. But I do think they can still win races. But, again, it's 1 out of every 5 races they can win. It's not 5 out of 5 like he was when he was at JGR.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. And I would say, you know, in the world that we live in today, it seems like 1 win gets you into the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
so I could definitely see him getting that 1 win, 2 win, maybe getting to the playoffs. Then when we get to the playoffs, you know, where is the playing field there? Where do they stack up among?
But here's this is the thing. So this is the whole playoff, the whole yada 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 thing. Okay, that's not who Kyle Busch is. Kyle Busch wants to win races and contend for a championship. Just to win a race to get in the playoffs, that's ho-hum for Kyle Busch. Mm-hmm. It really is. And that's ho-hum for a lot of these drivers.
Sure.
The drivers that really care. But for some of these drivers, it's like, yeah, I'm in. And that's all they care about. But there's that elite group that Kyle Busch belongs to that, yeah, I want to be in the playoffs. But when I get to the playoffs, I want to have a shot at winning the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's more important than even getting to the playoffs, is having that shot to be able to win.
And have no doubt he's the standard bearer there.
Yes.
After 3 races, and I know it's a small sample size, he's 9th in points. He's in the top 10. His teammate, Austin Dillon, 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was not Austin Dillon's fault yesterday. I don't know what happened to that 11 car, but man, it turned a dead right.
He got
and
Denny Hamlin
and never hit the brakes, man, and he drove right through Austin Dillon.
I think maybe there was some context there that we may have missed from the camera angles that we saw.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely didn't look
the
great.
The optics of that were not good.
No.
They were not good.
Yep.
All right, we're going to be talking overall about the whole COTA experience, and we'll break down a couple of other things as far as the network coverage was concerned right after this.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. That's 800-433-3082.
I'm Ryan Blaney, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Time to pull down on the handle and start rolling them here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
The green flag flies at the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
We're about to contest the Coca-Cola 600. We're racing at Texas Motor Speedway.
Now Keselowski goes way up the racetrack.
Here comes Harrison Burton. He rockets to the lead.
Trouble. Car goes around. It's Chris Buescher.
Joey Logano battles to the outside. They come back to the start-finish line.
Bubba Wallace looks inside. And now here's Byron. Takes a quick left to block him. They head back to one.
Here goes Ross Chastain. He's going to the bottom of the racetrack.
Bubba goes up. Blaney hits the outside wall off of turn 2.
Can Christopher Bell do anything with him? He gets down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Briscoe dives to the bottom of the racetrack. Side by side. They get loose. They spin. Now Tyler Reddick does a 360. So does Briscoe.
Heading into turn number 7 as he wraps it around. The crowd is cheering for Daniel Suarez here on this final lap. Allmendinger gets into Alex Bowman. Ross Chastain back out to the front for the final time.
This is PRN.
Welcome back to Fast Talk. Doug Rice, Alexis Erickson, Kyle Petty. Yesterday, we kind of had a hybrid crew down at Circuit of the Americas covering the action of that. Let's get a little sample of the last lap.
Christopher Bell, perhaps for the final time today, down the backstretch and into turn 12. We're getting ready to see if Rubbin is racing at COTA today. Here comes Christopher Bell up to 13. William Byron is in position. Can he get to the bumper? Will he get to the bumper? Will he move him? Close to doing it in turn number 13. Now down to 15. Once again, Byron's going to have a shot. He sets up to the outside. Bell holds the inside. Here comes Christopher Bell, and here comes William Byron. Tries to make a move underneath the bridge.
Byron is there. Tyler Reddick waits to see if these two take each other out. Toyota, Chevrolet Toyota at the front of the field for the final time. They exit turn number 18. Under braking. William Byron goes to driver's right. He's going to try to cross over on the exit of 19. Bell is up to the challenge. Christopher Bell the leader, but here comes Byron in 20.
It's the final corner of the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix. A Sooner trying to come to Austin to take away a trophy. Christopher Bell gets on the gas hard. He will win here at Circuit of the Americas. Christopher Bell will take the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix. William Byron, your second place finisher, followed by Tyler Reddick.
So there's how it sounded yesterday on the Performance Racing Network. All three of those voices very familiar, Alexis.
Yes, absolutely. It was a pleasure for me to be able to hear this weekend a blended crew, as you mentioned, because we had Alex Hayden over from the Motor Racing Network jump into a turn for us as, things have shifted with the short course and everything. We kind of jockeyed some announcers, and then also IndyCar, which is we have a lot of voices that we hear from there. They were in St. Pete. So Alex was nice enough to come and jump in, and he did a fantastic job, and really enjoyed listening to him on the broadcast yesterday.
And if you listened to the broadcast yesterday, you heard Brad Gilley mention, Kyle, that he's going to be a part of the MRN crew when they go down to Mexico City.
Which is so cool.
That is cool.
And it really is, because it's, you bring Alex over, you send Brad over, and you guys, my grandfather Owens, I've said this a million times, would watch the TV with the sound down and listen on the radio. That's just the way he lives. But it brings that familiarity.
Yeah.
It brings that, you just feel comfortable when you hear the voices that you know all the time, and that's pretty cool.
I think you do get a charge out of listening to the radio. Now that I'm at home on the PRN weekends, I find myself turning down or not completely muting the TV sound, but I want to hear what the PRN crew's doing. And if you play around a little bit long enough, you can get it just right where it's matched up. Pause the TV, let the radio catch up a little bit.
It's funny because on the race weekends that are our race weekends, my typical thing that I do is I have one AirPod in with our broadcast, and then I have the TV on Fox, which is typically turned down. I can still hear it a little bit, but it kind of blends, both of them. And I have the AirPod in because I'm also chasing my 3-year-old around, and so I can't be tethered to anything. But it does give that added, excitement.
There has to be more energy on the radio than there is television.
Absolutely.
Because that's all the tool that we have.
How many times have I texted you or called you when I've been on my motorcycle and I'm like, man, this is a great broadcast that I'm listening to, and then I find myself running. When it really gets excited, I can run 155 mile an hour zone. Because I'm just on the throttle trying to catch up with what y'all are saying.
He's going to send a bill in the mail for his next,
It is. It's easy to get caught up in. I'm thrilled that there's some new cooperation between PRN and MRN. I know Brad will have a blast when he goes to Mexico City. I was really glad to see Alex Hayden on the broadcast. I did see some pictures of him on social media.
Yep.
He had on a red PRN shirt.
He did, yeah.
And I will say this, I pretty much am okay with what TV, the product they put up. The one thing, and I will never change my mind on this, is the insistence of so many of their announcers to call the cars by numbers.
I know. Yeah.
It's just incredible. No other sport do you do that. You don't say at 32 breaks a tackle and he dashes down the field. And they're doing it even in ARCA and Xfinity races where hell nobody knows the numbers of those cars.
Here's what I like. I like it that it is that we use ex-drivers and we use ex-crew chiefs and people that are in the sport as analysts, and they use numbers. They know the people. They were just out there racing against the people. I know that's Christopher Bell. I know that's William. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't know them. I didn't play on their same team. I know these guys. I was just out there the last 20 years.
I'm curious, because obviously you've never been heavy like play-by-play or anything like that. You've always been an analyst. But did you ever, like from the driver's side, have to get over that hump because that's just the way drivers talk, like on the radio?
No.
And stuff.
You always refer. Listen. When you're inside that helmet and somebody cuts you off, you don't start cussing the 20 car. You cuss the driver of the 20 car, and you want to make sure God and everybody else knows what his name is when you're cussing him. You know what I mean?
Not the way they do it these days.
The people on the other end of my radio knew who I was mad at.
Well, I know they played a clip, an audio clip from Chase Elliott, and he goes, "I'm going to go back and dump the one."
Yeah.
And I'm going,
yeah.
In that context, I get it, but it's annoying to me that you can't do that extra effort to call them by name.
Yeah, but that's
a crutch.
You're just covering yourself from the legal aspect. The one means one of 36. I'm going to dump the one of 36. You didn't want to say his name because then when you did dump him, then you're guilty.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
And I mean, like, okay, so
plausible deniability.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, and I'm always amazed at how well, especially radio announcers can learn the cars, especially this day and age when drivers are changing cars. As the lower series, especially Xfinity trucks.
Oh.
I mean, PRN on the new NASCAR radio network did the truck race from Atlanta, and you'd think we had been doing truck races forever because they knew every single driver. And I feel like sometimes when you get an analyst that just use the number, it's a crutch to not have to go out and study.
It's not a crutch. It's a laziness.
Well, right. Same thing.
Yeah, you can call it a crutch, but it's just not doing your homework. And the problem is again, they know who these guys are.
Right.
You know, if and we'll just use this broadcast, Clint or Kevin, they've been around these guys. They talk to these guys. They know them all. But it just comes so easy because that's the way they've done it. And
I
that's the way
think that
people do it.
garage speak carries over.
Yeah.
It does.
And maybe it doesn't bother other people.
Yeah.
But for me, it's all I can hear sometimes. Coming up, Phoenix. What do we think about that? We'll chat about it next.
Motorsports isn't complicated. It's made up of races where you go as fast as you can, as best as you can, and as sideways as you can. Our team, Toyota Gazoo Racing. Toyota makes some seriously fast cars, and they all have great drivers, ones that win a lot. Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, they're all part of a big, happy family of speed demons. Now you're up to speed. You in? Follow the action at tgrna.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, LLC.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half of inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000, and car for car, truck for truck. Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 95,000 five-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure you drive away happy. It's even in their name. Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, it's PRN's Brad Gilley. Did you know you could take PRN with you anywhere? That's right. By downloading the PRN mobile app, you can listen to our live race broadcast from anywhere. Make sure you don't miss a second of the action from the track. Download today for station listings and on-demand access to your favorite studio shows like Fast Talk, The Pit Reporters, or Garage Pass. Get all the latest racing information at your fingertips with the PRN mobile app. Available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play.
Hey, I'm Corley Joy for Speedway Children's Charities. The mission for Speedway Children's Charities has remained true since its founding almost 40 years ago, to care for children in educational, financial, social, and medical needs in order to help them lead happy and productive lives. So many children have benefited from our group in the past, but we need your help now more than ever. There's so much we can do when we all join together, so let's start today. Visit speedwaycharities.org to learn more. I thank you in advance for your help.
Before we move on and chat about Phoenix, where the next race is going to be held, and of course the championship race this year, Kyle, you mentioned while we were in break, Noah Gragson rallied from being backwards on the racetrack to get a top 10 finish. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. I thought he drove, and they were the beneficiaries, and we heard Kyle Busch talk about, I would have liked to have been on equal tires. They were the beneficiary of that caution when they went green with 10 or 11 laps to go. But he drove the wheels off that thing, man. I mean, he made some passes and did some stuff. Some of it was caught on camera, some of it was missed on camera. But he in the end, he finished 7th or 8th. But he drove himself up to 4th or 5th right there with a few laps to go. So pretty impressive from Noah.
Can we chat about the fact that the first 3 races this year, Alexis, they feel like A-pluses almost?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for action, the first 3 races have been action-packed. I mean, obviously, you're going to get that no matter the week if you go to a super speedway. It's just that kind of racing. It produces that kind of racing. Some people love it. Some people hate it. But it is action-packed. road courses have kind of been a little bit hit or miss over the last few years, but I feel like we're finally getting into a groove where these road courses, I mean, you go back to what was it, Watkins Glen with Buescher and SVG and their battle, and that was fantastic. And then you look at what we had in the waning laps of last week's race. The road courses have been delivering more and more often as well. So it'll be interesting to see as we get into these more traditional type racetracks. Like you said, we're going to Phoenix this weekend and then Las Vegas and, Homestead, I think, after that. It'll be interesting to see if we can keep that momentum up.
Phoenix is next. And Kyle, is that where the real season starts, or did the real season start at COTA?
So I think if you listen to the teams walking around COTA, if we go back, and Daytona is Daytona, and people, you can have any kind of race at Daytona, and people are going to be excited because they've not seen anything in the last 2 or 3 months. So you're just excited to be back at the first day of school. That's kind of the way Daytona is. Atlanta is the premier race of everything right now. I don't care. I'd like to see them run there every freaking week. You know what I mean? Just every week, because it's just so exciting. And this race was a race. We saw actual drivers trying to pass people, not knock each other out of the way. Actual having a race. But I think when we get to Phoenix is the grind race. It's that race you got to get back to doing your nuts and bolts, your fundamental. You got to make it turn. You got to make it come up off the corner. You got to do things. Same thing when they go to Vegas. You got to turn in the middle of the corner. You got to get in the corner. You got to do the basic things that you have to do at the other 28 or 27 races, whatever it is, that are like these. And I think this is for the teams when the real engineering hits the road, when the real drivers hit the road, when the real cars hit the road, and they understand who they're going to have to compete against this year, or at least in the early part of the year. So, yeah, I think it is. At the same time, Phoenix is the kind of race that we all know that 1 or 2 cars can hit it and check out, and that's the end of the day. You know what I mean? That they'll just drive away from everybody else. So the race will be for 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
I almost feel like, and I thought I'd never say this, and you touched on it, Kyle, that Atlanta, for me, has become my favorite. I've got to watch this track. Even supplanting Daytona and Talladega, which I've always felt like were must-TV for me, I think Atlanta is more must-TV, mostly TV.
Mostly TV. Must-see TV.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, look, when you look at that, what we're calling it hybrid type of racetrack that that Speedway Motorsports has given us in Atlanta over the last few years, it every single race that we have had there has been ultra competitive, ultra compelling. And why would you not want to recreate that?
Yeah. And I will say this, and I was just thinking about it when you said that, is the only reason I don't want to recreate it is if I have dessert every day.
Well, that's true,
3 times a day, it gets old. So this is the one thing. As soon as they roll out of Atlanta and this last race, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Right.
You know what I mean? It gives you something to look forward to come to. But it is a type of racing that fits these cars, that fit these drivers, that fits what the sport is at this moment. It is, and if we go back a few years, remember the road courses were all the rage. Everybody wanted the road courses. You had to have them. We eliminated short tracks, eliminated 1.5 miles to get to the road courses. So, but I think the Atlanta thing is going to be here a long time as long as we stay with this package.
I think so too, and I agree with you. You know, you leave Atlanta and you think to yourself, "Man, I can't wait for that again." But I'm happy that we're not going to see it again until July.
Exactly.
Because you need that little bit of absence to make the heart grow fonder. Those type of things. But I mean, so competitive, so compelling.
Yeah. I want Phoenix to be good.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not. I don't know that it's capable of giving us the same kind of electric finishes that we've seen, but I want it to be 3 hours of time well spent.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been that type of racetrack since the configuration, in my opinion. Now, you can have situations where, like, the past few years, you have a team that hits on it. Team Penske finished 1st and 2nd last year with Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. Joey Logano obviously going out and winning his 3rd championship. And sometimes when you have situations like that, it can make it feel less compelling because you have a team that hits on it and kind of leaves everybody else in the dust. But we'll just have to see.
They
if it's
usually
still that
hit
way.
better in the fall than they do in the spring.
That's true.
For sure.
That's true.
For sure.
I think they're able to. I think they are great observers at Team Penske. I think they watch what everybody else does, and by the end of the year, they've cracked the code.
Well, I hope they were watching yesterday because
Yeah. They got cracked yesterday.
Yeah,
They need to be paying attention yesterday.
Penske pretty much was a no-show at Circuit of the Americas. Coming up, we got to do a little green flag, black flag action.
Whether your engine runs daily or only when you need it, Z-Max Micro Lubricant is the force you need against carbon buildup that can damage your engine. Combustion causes carbon and other harmful deposits to build up in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. And carbon is like sandpaper rubbing against your engine's internal parts. You don't want that. You want Z-Max Micro Lubricant. It soaks into metal and keeps your vehicle running at peak performance. Find out more at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Protect your engine to the max with Z-Max.
It's not about the cars, the speed, the action. It's not about the party or the long weekend. It's about them, the ones that gave everything. This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the fallen at America's Home for Racing.
The 66th running of the Coca-Cola 600.
I'm Kyle Busch, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Dale Earnhardt, he's almost been deified. There's a mystique about him that's never been attached to any other driver, including your dad.
I think there's two things for Dale Earnhardt that make him who he is. He was that guy that's your neighbor. I don't care if you live in a mobile home. I don't care if you live in a mansion. He's that guy that was your neighbor. He's the guy that was out in his yard planting his plants. He's the guy that was out there mowing. He's the guy that was out there doing it. He's the guy that drove the truck. He's the guy that got up under the car and changed the gear. He's the guy that put on a uniform and jumped in that car and became your hero on a Sunday afternoon. And you could identify with that. He's really that last guy. And he is, in the words of Tom Wolfe, last great American hero, the book that was written about Junior Johnson. He is that last guy to a lot of people. And he was going to have that following no matter what. It moved to a different level because of what happened at Daytona. Billy Joel, only the good die young. And that's the way you remember it. So I think that moves you to a different place too.
Circuit of the Americas in the rearview mirror for NASCAR. Great race, big finish. Last 15 laps were excellent. Hope you got to enjoy that. Hope you got to hear it on the Performance Racing Network. Great call by our team. They have this week off. MRN will have all the action from Phoenix, and then PRN is back for Las Vegas Motor Speedway and the Pennzoil 400. Time now for us to do this.
It's time for another edition of Green Flag, Black Flag.
It is indeed. I've got several statements here that I'm going to be reading for you. You mull them over, panel. If you agree with them, you give them a green flag. Hey, if you disagree, it gets a black flag. And if you're all in harmony and agreement and happiness, there we go. Well, we always said at my house when we have company, they get to do everything first. So Kyle Petty, here we go. Kyle Busch will win before the Coca-Cola 600.
No, black flag. Yeah, black flag. I'm sorry. I don't think so. But then again, I've been wrong before. I'm just giving it a black flag just for a black flag.
Right.
I got no reason.
Doug Rice, you really deep down inside want him to.
I do.
Oh, yeah, we do want him.
I do want him to. Despite what I've said begrudgingly about him in the past, I want him to win. But I'm just not feeling it. He could get one if they out-strategize people, or maybe he has another hot road course car. But no, black flag.
Well, beyond it, what do you think is holding him back? What's the factor?
Calendar.
Okay.
Can't outrun.
That's good.
Can't outrun.
That's a good answer.
Age.
Can't outrun the calendar.
Yeah, I'm going to say green flag because I really don't know, but I hope he does.
There we go. There we go.
You know what?
There is hope.
That's optimism right
green
there.
flag. I'm going to be Brad Gilly today since he's not here.
Mr. Blue Sky.
Exactly.
That's it.
Somebody's got to play that.
All right.
That role.
Let's go to Doug Rice. Joey Logano will win 2 races or less this year.
Green flag. I know he's the defending champion, but they didn't start winning races till they got to the playoffs last year. And you can't do that again this year and expect to win.
What's the year again?
2 races, or what is this?
25.
25. Yeah, it's odd year. Right? He's not going to do it. It's an odd year. He only does it in even years. So.
Oh, my God. I'm glad all these
numerology.
All this stuff. Here, let me turn over the tea leaves.
Yeah.
The tarot cards. Let me read them right here. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna have to give that probably a green flag also. Because I just think they just start so slow. The 22 team.
Right.
Just the 22 team. Yeah.
All right, let's go on this one. Alexis, you're up here. The glimmer on Shane Van Gisbergen's gold star is fading.
Oh, no, black flag. I don't think so. I mean, you can't. I think SVG is an incredible talent, and I think we will see him do some incredible things on road courses this year. But look, these NASCAR Cup Series drivers are all very good at what they do, and I think we just see when you watch a race like we saw this past weekend at COTA, you can have a world-class road course racer still be outrun by these Cup guys. And I don't think it's going to happen maybe every single time, but no, I don't think his star has
all right.
faded any.
Okay, what do you think, Kyle?
No, I agree. I don't know. Does that mean green or black?
Black.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say is when we had Marcus Ambrose and he could come in and kick everybody's rear end, he did it for a while. AJ did it for a while. We live in a time when data is an open book. So every team out there can look at his data, see where he shifts, where he breaks, where he checks up, everything that he does, every driver, not just his teammates, every driver. So when you throw a better basketball player on the court, everybody has to up their game to play with that guy. They watch him, they pay attention, and they up their game. That the water doesn't get cooler, it gets hotter. By him coming to the sport, we had great road course drivers, and I think he's made our drivers better.
All right, Doug Rice.
Black flag. I think there's still a lot of shimmy on Shane Van Gisbergen. And it's a shame everybody's learned how to pronounce his name now. But I like him. I'm kind of fascinated by the guy, and I think he brings a different tenor to the sport.
So I didn't hear this tune. Was that not anonymous?
It was.
Oh,
there we go.
I thought we were anonymous.
Sleeping on the controls in there.
Not
anonymous. Unanimous.
It's anonymous. It's anonymous. It's not. Be pessimistic. It's anonymous. It's anonymous.
I heard that.
Are you from that co-opetition?
Yeah.
That's it.
We cooperate, but we compete.
All right, one more question, Kyle. We're back to you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Bubba Wallace is hoping
Unanimous.
Bubba's what?
He's hoping he's not anonymous. Okay. No, Bubba Wallace is hoping that the spring forward to daylight savings time propels him to victory lane.
Yeah, that's a green. That's a green. Listen, they need something. They just need a bright moment. They had a bright moment in qualifying. He's done some good things already this year, winning a qualifying race at Daytona. I still want to call them the 125s. Winning a qualifying race at Daytona, but yes, I think he's looking for great things.
Doug Rice.
Yes, obviously he needs to spring forward. They've got to win. Bubba has to make, and I said this 6 months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, or whatever.
6 hours ago.
Yeah, could have been. They have to make the playoffs this year. They have to validate all the money that's spent on that team and all the attention that Bubba gets. And I think new dad Bubba, who is a little less edgy, can go out and win a race. I don't think he's quite wound as tight as he used to be. And I think that's going to play well for him.
Talking about clocks, springing forward, winding tight. Look at you.
Man, bring it all together.
What I bring to the
wrap it
party.
around.
Yes.
Symmetry.
I mean, I'm going to say green flag, but to be fair, I would say green flag for any driver hoping that springing forward will bring them victory. Everybody wants to win. So, yeah, green flag.
Have we sprung yet, or are we still winning?
No. Next weekend.
Next week.
Oh, okay. I have to know these.
Get up and do it at 2 a.m. That's what you have to do here, I think. Yeah.
All
right.
Now, is that when we lose a lap? Lose a lap.
For me.
lose an hour.
I'm with you. My phone does it. I don't know.
Eventually, the oven will change.
Yeah.
But
So we spring forward. So we lose an hour?
Yes.
Yes, we lose. We're losers.
But that means it stays daylight longer.
Correct.
And we
That's
come
right.
out of zombie land.
And we lose both ways. because then a daylight longer, you have to do more work in the afternoons.
No
in
kidding.
The yard. We lose an hour. I'm losing time.
I'm okay with that, as opposed to sitting in the house at 6 swearing that it's 9:30.
Yeah,
well,
that's true. That's true too. That's true.
I am okay with that.
That's true.
We actually have to take a paid break. People do sponsor this show. It's hard to believe.
Shocking.
And we'll come right back.
Motorsports isn't complicated. It's made up of races where you go as fast as you can, as best as you can, and as sideways as you can. Our team, Toyota Gazoo Racing. Toyota makes some seriously fast cars, and they all have great drivers, ones that win a lot. Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, they're all part of a big, happy family of speed demons. Now you're up to speed. You in? Follow the action at tgrna.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, LLC.
Fueling NASCAR champions on the track for over 20 years to innovating 94 octane, the highest octane on the market. Performance is what Sunoco does. All Sunoco fuel at the pump meets the same top-tier standards as the fuel used in NASCAR. From the track to your tank, you can trust Sunoco to help your vehicle perform at its peak.
I'm Martin Truex Jr., and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Here's Christopher Bell.
My Toyota Camry TRD race car isn't cheap to build and prepare. I have a pit crew that maintains and fixes my equipment. I have a spotter high above the track watching my back, talking me through turns and potential dangers on the track. I physically train to handle the stress of driving. And I have software helping my crew chief and engineers make the right strategy calls. And with all this, I never take my eyes off the road, and neither should you. One distraction can change everything in one instant.
Fast Talk is brought to you in part by Sunoco. From NASCAR to your car, Sunoco Fuel helps your car reach peak performance. And also by Toyota. For the latest Toyota Gazoo racing information, visit tgrna.com. And Alexis imparted information to me last week about what Gazoo is. That is Toyota holistically,
Yes,
right?
yes.
In the racing world.
Yes, on a more global scale. They want to pull in their Toyota North America racing into what they do globally, and that is the Gazoo racing.
And so we're not talking as much about Toyota TRD now as we are
Correct.
Gazoo racing.
Correct. They are rebranding, if you will.
All right. I'm easily complicated, so
They're
Complicated or confused?
yeah, but honestly, they're rebranding.
Anonymous.
They're
Either
rebranding. They're rebranding their American racing to their worldwide
Correct.
racing. Is what
Correct.
they're doing
Yeah.
because that's what it's been everywhere else.
Right.
It's just only been TRD here in our NASCAR little world.
That's right.
And
that we like to think is the biggest world, and
well, of course,
that we encompass the whole universe in NASCAR.
I did watch the IndyCar race at St. Pete. I appreciated Fox's coverage. Listened to our guys a little bit on the IndyCar radio network. I'm not the biggest fan of IndyCar on a road course. I don't find it compelling. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I get it. The guys are really, really good and the cars go fast.
Yeah.
But I just don't find the spectacle compelling.
Yeah.
Put them on an oval.
St. Pete's beautiful.
I love St. Pete. I'm sure it's an artsy community. It's really good. I saw that. But
you can watch the race from your yacht.
Oh.
Apparently.
You watch the race from Kyle's yacht.
Yeah.
Not from mine.
Not from our yacht.
You can't see it from the seat of a bass boat.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah.
Have you ever owned a boat?
No.
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 A lot of work.
No boats.
On a boat.
No boats. So sorry.
Nor have I. Nor do I want to.
Or a paddle board or anything that even nothing. I'm not the water guy.
No water.
No water.
What is it they say for boat owners? The 2 greatest days: the day you get it and the
day you sell it.
The day you sell it.
I can see that.
We got to move to this right here.
One last thing.
All right, it's the time in the show that we get to make one last statement about anything on the planet. It could be yachts, it could be boats, it could be whatever. Kyle Petty, we are going to give you the honor of being first up.
Dang. Okay, so here, and I bring this up because of this past weekend and Connor Zilic. Connor Zilic is the latest, greatest thing since sliced bread. He is better than peanut butter. He is better than peanut butter with jelly, or if you like peanut butter, he's better than everything. And what I'm going to say is I am about sick and tired and fed up to my eyeballs with giving Oscars out, since it's Oscar weekend, giving Oscars out for the trailers and not for the movie. Let me see the movie before I make a judgment, okay? And my point is we saw Christopher Bale, Harrison Burton, John Hunter Nemechek. We saw these guys dominate the Xfinity Series, and for a while were also rans in the Cup Series. If you're going to play in the Cup game, you've got to be top of the game. If you're just going to beat a bunch, in the words of the great Harry Gant, if you're just going to play on Saturday and beat a bunch of high school boys, that's okay. Play on Saturday and beat a bunch of high school boys. But you're not a superstar beating high school boys. You got to come to the big game. You got to play the big game. So let's give Connor Zilic an opportunity to learn his craft and be who Connor Zilic can be. Let's don't go ahead and elevate him to superstardom just off of an ARCA race.
I 1,000% agree, and it's not fair to Connor Zilic to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another prospect that I have talked about before on here, who is a little bit further in the ranks than Connor Zilic is, backwards anyway, is Jade Avedisian. I don't know if anybody was able to catch the Cars Tour race from this past weekend. She is the first woman to win a Cars Tour event. Now, granted,
Wow.
she did so because she had a great battle. I'm probably going to say his last name incorrectly, with TJ DeCarey, who actually won the race, but he was DQ'd, giving her the win. Hey, look, a win is a win.
A win is a win.
She is a huge prospect for Toyota Gazoo Racing. She is somebody who is, I think, we're going to see in the ranks of Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and potentially even Cup Series as we go down the line. So, keep an eye out for that name, Jade Avedisian. I think we're going to hear a lot more about that.
Yeah, you've been touting her for a while, so I saw where she got the Cars Tour win. Congratulations. The old saying is you only get one chance to make a first impression. The first impression for NASCAR out of the box this year has been fantastic. We chatted about it earlier. Daytona, yes, it got rain delay, but it got in on Sunday. It did not disappoint, and great win there for William Byron. Atlanta, fantastic showing. Wish they could have gotten the checker, but still a 3-wide finish, and I think everybody was left trying to catch their breath. Circuit of the Americas. Alexis said it earlier. You can hit or miss with these road courses. They hit. They hit on all cylinders. We had 4 cars at the tail end of that race battling to win it. Way to go. First impression for the 2025 season, I got to give it a 10. I don't know that you can come up with much better. Backwards on fire, maybe, but love the start of the season. It's going to be tough to keep up this pace, Alexis and Kyle, but the start, the first 3 races of the year, we're out of the block strong.
Momentum
for sure.
is definitely in our favor, for sure.
I don't know what percentage of the season we've used up, but it was really done well. This week, they're off to Phoenix. Week after that, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. PRN will have all the action on a radio near you. Want to thank our panelists today, Alexis Erickson and Kyle Petty. Kyle will be coming up a few more times. And David Stiles and Kent Bernhardt behind the glass, and Harold Hambrick will be helping put this show together a little bit later on. So a lot to be said here. The season is very young, but I'll back up what I had for one last thing. Don't know that we could have gotten off to a much better start. We'll see if C-Bell can hang on. Quickly, your picks for Phoenix. Kyle, we'll go to you first.
Kevin Harvick. Oh, no, he didn't race anymore. I'm going to say.
I almost, yeah, that's great. Go
Ryan
Kevin.
Blaney. I'm going Ryan Blaney. Did I take yours?
You did.
I'm sorry.
But that's okay. I will go with Christopher Bell.
Oh, for 3 in a row.
Whoa.
I know. Yeah.
That was good.
You almost turned red on that. Did you
That was
embarrass
good.
yourself by
Maybe.
picking
That
that?
was
Maybe a little
good.
bit. We'll see.
That's a good one.
C. Bell. I'm going to go with the other guy that's already won this year, and that's going to be William Byron.
Good.
I just riding the hot hand here.
Yeah.
We won't get a surprise winner.
Yeah.
I
don't think so either.
This is not going to be somebody's first career win or somebody that's only won one race. The winners at Phoenix generally are people that have won a lot of races before. So we'll see how all of that plays out. I'm Doug Rice. We'll be back next week. And you know what? We'll have a whole bunch more Fast Talk.
Fast Talk was presented by Sunoco. From NASCAR to your car, Sunoco Fuel helps your car reach peak performance. This is PRN, the Performance Racing Network.